Okay, we're on to chapter 2, and maybe 3. We'll see how it goes. So Junie B and May are not doing so hot, and that was really sassy for Junie B. That was a rough first chapter for you guys to hear, because she's usually not that bad at all. She's having a bad day. The second chapter is Jingle Hats. The rest of the morning, we did arithmetic. Arithmetic is the school word for adding and taking away, and for us, it's math. Only I couldn't even concentrate on my numbers that good on account of May kept giving me mean looks and flapping her sweater sleeve around. Pretty soon, there was a knock on the door. "Come in, please," said room 1. Mr. Scary taught us to say that, only I don't actually know why, because people come in anyway. The door opened very slow, and ha! It was Mr. Toot, the music teacher. He was carrying a big brown box in his arms. It was dusty, I think, because when Mr. Toot plopped the box on the floor, Sheldon started sneezing his head off. Sheldon is very allergic to dust particles. Also, he is allergic to hoagies and dairy products and nature. Achoo! Achoo! Mr. Scary looked at him real panicked. Then he got a tissue box and he rushed to Sheldon's desk. But Sheldon was already wiping his nose on his shirt sleeve. "Ha! I beat you again, Mr. Scary," he said. "I beat you to that race every time I sneeze." Mr. Scary closed his eyes. "I have told you before, Sheldon, we are not racing," he said. Sheldon laughed. Then he threw his fist in the air and he shouted, "Sheldon Potts rules!" Mr. Scary rolled his eyes. Then he moved to the dusty box farther away from Sheldon's desk, and Mr. Toot lifted the lid. I stood up to look, and wowie, wow, wow, guess what was in there? Elf clothes, that's what. There were little green elf hats with jingle bells on their ends, plus also there were cute elf vests and belts. Mr. Toot held them up for us to see. "Boys and girls, our PTO made these costumes several years ago for our holiday sing-alongs," he said. "Aren't they great? Every single first grader is going to get to wear one today." He started passing them out. My Richie friend Lucille got hers first. She looked at it and made a face. "Okay, number 1, I don't wear this shade of green. And number 2, I don't wear bell hats," she said. Mr. Scary looked up at the ceiling. Then he took Lucille by her hand and he walked her into the hall. And she came back wearing the bell hat. Pretty soon, all of the rest of room 1 were wearing our bell hats too. We shook our heads. The bells jangled very jingly. "Hey, this room sounds just like a jingle bell sleigh," I said. Mr. Toot did a chuckle. "You're right, Junie B. Every year, one lucky class gets to wear the jingle bell hats. And this year, because room 1 has been so well behaved in music class, I chose you." All of the children clapped and cheered, except for not Lucille. Instead, she threw her hands in the air and shouted, "What are the odds?" After that, she flapped her head on her desk and she didn't come up again. Mr. Toot ignored her. "And that's not all my good news either," he said, "because each year the class with the bell hats goes on stage and they lead the whole auditorium in singing jingle bells." Room 1 jumped up from our seats. "Jingle bells! Yay! Jingle bells! We're going to lead jingle bells!" Mr. Toot smiled. "Okay, everyone, just to make sure that you know the words, we're going to have a short rehearsal," he said. "Yay, rehearsal!" we shouted. Only too bad for us, because rehearsal was nothing to shout about. We sang that dumb song a jillion times, I think. At first, it was kind of fun, only then it got real boring, and so that's how come I started singing funny different words. They were funny different words about Batman and Robin. I sang them loud so my friends could hear. "Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost its wheel and Joker got away." Herbert and Lenny laughed and laughed. May did a gasp. Then she sprang up like a spring and she started to tattle. "Mr. Toot! Mr. Toot! Junie Jones is singing the wrong..." I quick yanked her skirt. "Psst, May! you crazy? I whispered. You and I can't fight anymore. Remember that? If you tattletale on me, we'll be parking ourselves at Principal's. May covered her mouth with her hands. Then she sat down very fast. Oops, never mind, she said to Mr. Toot. I wiped my forehead. Phew, that was a close one, I said. I saved our gooses. May leaned across the aisle. You did not save our gooses, Junie Jones, she said. I saved our gooses. I'm the one who didn't tattle. She pointed her finger at me. But you better not sing those bad words again at the sing-along, she said. I mean it, Junie Jones. If you sing those bad words on stage, I will tell on you no matter what. I did a big breath. Robin laid an egg is not bad words, May, I said. An egg is nothing for a bird to be ashamed of. I don't care. It doesn't matter, she said. You already ruined enough today, Junie Jones. You ruined my sweater and you ruined my mood, but you're not going to ruin the sing-along too. She crossed her arms at me. Even if I get in trouble myself, I will still tell on you, she said. You can count on that, Junie Jones. After that, she leaned back in her chair and she brushed her hands together real smuggy. I looked and looked at that girl. May is off her rocker, I believe. The next chapter is Laughing All the Way. We went to the sing-along after lunch. And ha! That auditorium looked like Santa's workshop. There were a jillion cute little elves in that place. And wait until you hear this. Room 1 got to sit in the very first row. I sat in the seat right next to my friend Herbert. This sing-along is going to be fun, right, Herb, right? This sing-along is going to be the time of our life. Just then, May plopped down in the seat on the other side of me. I stopped smiling. That seat is saved, May, I told her. I am saving it for someone else. For who, she asked. For someone not you, that's who, I said. May did not budge herself. You can't make me move, Junie Jones. This seat is public property, she said. She scooted closer to me. I'm going to stick to you like glue. It's the only way to make sure you behave yourself today. I showed her my teeth and I made a grr noise. May did not look fearful. Finally, I moved closer to Herb and I pretended she was invisible. Pretty soon, the sing-along got started. Mr. Toot said to turn our page to page 1 in our holiday songbook. The first song was the 12 Days of Christmas. It's about a guy who gives his girlfriend a bunch of stupid presents. I tapped on Herb, real curious. What do you do with 10 Lords a Leaping, do you think? I said. He thought for a minute. I'd take them back and get store credit, he said. I nodded. That Herb is full of answers. After that, we sang Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Winter Wonderland. Finally, Mr. Toot stood up at his piano and he said it was time for Jingle Bells. Room 1 hurried to the stage. It was very thrilling, except for May kept on sticking to me like glue. She stepped on my heels going up the steps. Then she crowded in real close to me and she whispered in my ears. I'll be listening to you, Junie Jones, she said. I'll be hearing every word you sing. I smiled to just myself. Because I had a surprise up my arm, that's why. Pretty soon, Mr. Toot raised his hands to start the song. I stood up straight and tall. Then I took in a big breath and I sang the words out loud and clear. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha, 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 bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. My eyes glanced over at May. Her face looked disappointed almost. I smiled, then I took another breath and I sang the chorus in her ear. Oh, jingle bells, Batman smells, P.S. so does May. I'd throw May right off the sleigh and then I'd drive away. Hey, yelled May. I laughed at that funny comment because hey fit right into the song. Room 1 sang the chorus again, but I was laughing too hard to sing. It was the joke of my life, I tell you. Only too bad for me, because as soon as we got back to the room, May tattletaled her head off. It was not good. Because as soon as Mr. Scary called us up to his desk. He said he is very disappointed in both of us, only unfortunately there is not enough time left to send us to the office. I started to relax a teensy bit. Only just then, the bad news came. Because what do you know, Mr. Scary said there was exactly enough time for him to write a note to our parents. Uh-oh. So next time we'll read chapter 4. Sorry, I keep making mistakes, but I keep looking up at the camera and then I lose my place. Have a good day.